and then we can proceed. Okay, so we hope our audio is now loud and clear.
Is it loud and clear now?
You can give us a thumbs up because now it's the much people speaking. Matt Abacus.
Is it loud and clear now?
Okay, we have thumbs up. Okay, please do keep the mics muted. We shall keep muting all of you, but as people join and drop off the session, the mics bother us again. Okay. We were at the point of if you use any innovative tools or strategies or technologies. We'll let Matabakas take over once again to give you some more explanation and examples of what tools you could use.
Also, the innovations like artificial intelligence, do you use any research strategies to integrate technology into your business?
Okay, so people. Okay, here you have it. And people, if you still require deep diving into technology, we have that extended session where you can feel at home to ask us many questions about integration. For now, if you're not sure you have any tools, please skip the question to allow us time to get back to you in a more detailed manner. Let's scroll down and see what aspects of technology we have next. Please down again a bit. Okay, so if you have registered any patents or copyrights, what is the patent? What's the copyright? People may want to know. Tabakas. Okay. Sorry, we are having a bit of distraction.
I'll say that a patent is a legal right for a company to be the only one that uses a certain kind of technology on me. So it protects the company from other entrants into the market. So it's like a legal right that you request for so that other people do not copy what it is that you're doing.
Okay. So
It could have
That legal right gives you the sole right to produce a particular product or offer a particular service without any interference of other people who might want to copy what you are offering as a product or a service.
okay, and just for your comfort, the IEC also liaises and has established collaboration with the Uganda Registration Services Bureau that is responsible for registering these patents and trademarks. So yeah, you can get in touch with us if this is something of interest to you. We want to confirm if you have any questions on technologies and innovations used, like simple understanding questions. If you need a deep dive, we shall remain available. Do let us know with a thumbs up if we could move to the resource use aspect. Okay, we have the thumbs up coming in. Thank you for that. Now let's proceed to efficient resource use. All right. Good morning, everyone. We are joined just about now by the program director, the one you've not had a chance to meet yet at the IEC, but rest assured, in person, you will meet him. He's called Mr. Jimmy Mugera. You'll meet him next week or the week after next when you come in for your action planning exercise in person. For now, could you allow that he gives us a few remarks as we proceed with our session? We are honored to have him here.
And it was sitting in the session. It's okay. I'm back again. Let me know. Oh, nice to see you. I recognize some places. Those I don't recognize, I'm happy.
Okay, so you know that you're very well catered for, and there is a thumbs up and applause from the group welcoming you to the session here. Okay, so let's proceed to efficient resource management. Yes, please.
Yeah, you heard me about technology. Many of us think that computers and then the internet comes in probably solve the challenges, but we ought to be organized first before we introduce the technology with the way we are doing things. So manually, you have to be prepared for the technology. Before you bring in that computer, before you bring in that internet, your way of doing things must be ready to take on the technology. Otherwise, it will be garbage in, garbage out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
And that goes hand in hand with having the human capital that will manage the technology. You can have all the modern technology, and you have people behind the technology who do not have the capacity to be able to utilize it. You will still get very frustrated. Thank you.
Okay, kindly allow me to remind you, thank you, Matabakas, for that, to remind you that we have additional columns for you to give us detailed input into the challenges you may be facing in optimizing resource use. Don't forget to fill out those qualitative sessions as we proceed. Not now immediately, we shall give you time, but just be aware that we may require additional information as we proceed. Okay, we need that thumbs up before we move on again to efficient resource management. Okay, we just saw one. Okay, many more are coming in. Perfect. We ask, does your company use any energy efficient technologies? We'll explain what we mean, but examples include solar energy, if you've installed solar panels, if you use any energy saving appliances, and then we ask you to list for us all the available technologies. Would you want to expound more on energy efficient technologies?
Yes, explained very well.
Oh.
Solar panels, LED appliances, using something like washing machines that save energy and require not so much labor to build.
Okay, for our dummy company, we are choosing no because we do not know what efficient technologies we have in place. So we shall go with a no and move on to the question that requires us to indicate whether we have any cost management strategies or procedures. The question continues to ask, elaborate on which cost management strategies we have. We gave you an example previously of how you can be procuring in bulk, how you can maybe procure off season when the supply is a lot, and then that the prices are a bit low. But let's also give you more examples of some cost management strategies that you could assess and see if you have this in place. Remember, if this is something unfamiliar to you, let's bank it and deep dive after the general session.
Maybe, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, one of the cost management strategies, which is a challenge most of the SMEs, is actually to do with registered parties for tax purposes. Because in most of the time, the taxman will treat costs a little different from the accountant. So there are costs that would be allowable for purposes of taxation, and some might be disallowed. So it turns out that to hit on your profitability, where some costs are credible and some are incredible for tax purposes. So they tend to lose out. So best way to do it is look out for partners or partners within your trade that are actually registered for taxes. And then the bit of energy efficiency. The taxman has tried to exempt, or government has tried to exempt some of these appliances. I keep seeing companies that are trying to use electric vehicles. Some of these are not paying taxes. So it would enable some of these SMEs to have a balanced kind of unit or incomes for tax purposes. That's something.
Maybe another example I can pick about in terms of cost management strategies with people. Spending up on costs of saying that too much so that it's a big problem with SMEs. So you might think about just in time inventory management system where you buy things as and when you need them, but it needs a lot of coordination so that you're not going to have cash in slow. And another one maybe I could pick up is outsourcing non-core services like IT, but you may not be able to afford to have somebody at full-time IT person, you may not even need them anyway. So outsourcing could also be a possible strategy for SME.
Okay, kindly remember to speak up as you speak because the participants are struggling a bit. But as you heard, we have outsourcing and issues with taxation. We have even another example.
Yeah, when you're thinking about resource utilization, let me just give an example of water. Instead of getting water from national water, you can actually harvest water and be able to use depending on your production input. So that will be able to help you to reduce all your cost that you pay for water from national water if you have facilities for storing that water. But also, of course, you need to consider what are my variable and fixed costs. So you can vary your variable cost by reducing it depending on what resources that you use so that you cut down your costs. Thank you very much. I hope that is good.
Okay. So that's it, people. You have some examples to kickstart your thought process on what mechanisms. Let's move down to ask if you've established any supplier relationship management policies. So how do you deal with suppliers? Do you have framework agreements and stuff like that? We can have a brief input there, but our dummy company does not have any supplier management policy. So we are clicking no. Please do let us know in the chat because then we would move to the third aspect, which is financial health. And also looking at the time means we have to hasten a bit. So
In the same policy, do we want them to have it written? I'm sure some of them will have an informed procedure.
yeah, so we during the previous session, we explained, and for those who may be joining to represent others, we are talking of ready policies. Anything half documented, 80%, 90%, please click no, because we then want to help you to bring it to completion. So it should be actually completed and disseminated. But at least if it's there, the dissemination occurs. So people, are there questions for operational efficiency that you could put in the chat before we proceed? If none, we'll give you a minute. Also use the thumbs up to let us know if we could proceed, but keep the questions coming. We shall come back to them definitely if any arise. Okay, looks like we can go to financial health. And here we are looking at, remember we explained that we want to know and kind of classify your company as being a small, an SME, that is SME, small, medium enterprise, or if you're rather a large enterprise. Bernard, we've seen your question in the chat. We shall get back to it. Let's complete here. So we have the annual turnover being 360 million Uganda shillings. If you consulted with your finance manager and they said yes, then do click yes. If no, our dummy company has no. If you're not sure, please don't guess. Just skip this question. However, don't forget that the questions you skip and have a no we have to do a double take and see if it's just a no because we've skipped, or it's a yes because we've skipped. We have to do that QA at the end because it's not so obvious here. You could skip a question. In your form, maybe you could highlight it as yellow. You could try highlighting our cell for you to know that this question hasn't been answered yet. We are parking it. Okay. Remember, we have additional room for you to let us know what the major challenges are for you to raise capital. Remember, we also, let's proceed, Sandra. We have another question on how, if you've accessed any commercial forms of financing. Let's give you some examples on commercial forms of financing, then you're able to indicate accordingly.
When we talk about something commercial, we mean something that talks about trade and aids to trade. So when we are talking about commercial forms of financing, you are probably getting your financing either from a commercial bank or any other form of financial institution that you have to repay back with interest. So that's just an example of a commercial form of financing.
Okay.
Business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. And the next question, we surely may not have examples for you, but that's why we want to listen from you. Have you accessed any sector-specific financing? For example, have you been privileged to have a call that we are financing companies in oil and gas? This is a specific fund, be it from any fund. We may not be aware, but you could have some sector-specific financing for oil and gas. Be it equity, debt financing that you could let us know about. If no, then I know our dummy company hasn't benefited in the past. So we will click and no. As you're trying to analyze how to complete the tool, let's look into the chart and address some questions so that we're a bit unclear so far. We have a question from Bernard. He asks, if I am authorized, okay. Does it fall under? All right. It's a bit unclear, but he asks, if I am an authorized partner, does it fall under supplier management? If you have an authorized partner, Bernard, would you mind rephrasing the question again in the chat so that we can give you the correct and accurate feedback? Kindly use the chat again and edit a bit for clarity. Then we have a question from Mazil International. They would request for a bit more clarity on the difference between a policy and a manual. Are they the same thing or different ones? Mazil, let's run briefly to ChatGPT. That's a joke, Mazil. Please, Martin, proceed.
Mazil, a manual is a document that contains policies. So the policies are put together, they are written, and they cover different aspects of your business or organization. And the document that contains those policies and procedures is called a manual.
Please come again.
A manual is a document that contains the policies and procedures that you apply in different aspects of your business. Okay? For example, if you have a finance and admin manual, it contains the different policies and procedures that you follow when you are handling your finances in the organization. So the policies and procedures are contained in the document that you call a manual.
Maybe summarize what my colleague is saying. Policies tend to be brief, whereas a manual contains a detail of what is contained in the policy.
Okay. People, we can have a clarification on that, but I think it was quite clear what they said. A manual is a policy that is manualized in a policy. Okay.
Let me try to explain again. I think a policies and procedures are contained in a manual. The manual is the document. For example, you have a finance and admin manual. Therein, you will have policies and procedures that you follow when you are dealing with finances. Another example of a manual is a human resource manual that lays down the policies and procedures that you follow on onboarding your human resource and when they are exiting. What procedures and policies do you follow? So they are contained there in the manual.
Okay. Thank you. Great work. I hope it's now very clear.
The question, authorized partners, management. I think he's asking, for example, if you're dealing with computers and you authorized as a reseller of HP. I think his question is, does that cover supply management? If you are authorized dealer, for example, if Dell says, yes, you are a third-tier dealer, does that cover the arrangement with their supplier? That's the correct. I'm not sure, but I think that's what he's trying to ask there.
Okay. Well, it's a question. Okay. Bernard has rephrased the question. If I am the authorized partner or reseller for a specific product here in Uganda, does that fall under any form of supplier management? The question is now clear.
Because by the time you cover it, certain things spelled out. So I think it can cover it.
Just for clarity, they are now, these are not, they are their suppliers of goods, the person they are reselling for. So that there's a contract and relationship between them. So Bernard, that would be a yes, you have some form of supplier management engagement. Okay. Then we have a question from Mankas. If we have procedure and forms for supplier evaluation and control, how would you rate us? Should they click a yes or no, if that's all they have? They have a procedure and forms for evaluating their suppliers. Is that a policy or a manual? Does that equate to that? That's what they want to know.
I think that's a policy.
So those points are drawn from the policy. That's what I would think. For purposes of following up on how they are performing against their suppliers. So it's more or less like a tool. They are drawing from a policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you recommend they click yes?
I would say it qualifies as informed.
Okay.
When you have policies, you have procedures that you use to implement your policy. Tools like documents that are used are an aspect of the method that you use to implement your procedure to fulfill your policy.
So the question is, how often do they evaluate?
So the question for me is, are your forms a tool that you use to implement your procedure to achieve your policy? That means the beginning point is you have a policy.
Yeah.
Now the procedure says, get this document, fill it, and use it to ensure that you are fulfilling this procedure and therefore achieving your policy.
Maybe monthly or quarterly follow.
So
A good example would be,
Yeah.
Okay. So Mankas, the issue is if you have a policy from which you're deriving these forms and procedures, then yes. If it's in any way incomplete and you're just extracting these bits, then kindly indicate no. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to liquidity as another aspect. And under liquidity, we are going to look at three aspects: the current ratio and how you manage your cash flows. Okay, so let's have a deep dive into current ratio, because before we ask you to click yes or no, you should have an understanding of what the current ratio is. We have prepared a slide, and we shall have the experts deep dive as you look at the slide, what the current ratio means. Okay, let's have it in slideshow. Okay, over to you.
The current ratio measures a company's ability to meet its debts.
Frida, can we ask you to speak up?
The current ratio measures a company's ability to pay its debts. And the way you work it out is you divide the current assets by the current liabilities. If the current assets are higher than the current liabilities, it means that you have a current ratio of greater than 1, which means that you are able to pay your debts. If you have one that is less than 1, it means that you are not able to pay your debts. However, in order for the company to be able to measure its current ratio, they must have proper records that are kept. Because once anything is out of place, you may look at a position that does not reflect the company's actual position.
Okay, there you are, people. Remember, we had said you consult with your respective financial managers to give you an estimate into the current assets and liabilities. If they were unable to give you this information already, bank the question, because you need it as accurately as possible. You can fill out this information. Let's revert to the BD tool. And so a question comes in already as we revert to the BD tool. Are we able to find this in the audited books of accounts?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Just to put it in perspective, you wouldn't want to borrow money. Like money you have to pay back in 5 years' time to put a need of, say, a week's time. So you cannot use the long-term liability to put a short-term liability. You cannot borrow, let's say, you want to pay off your employees, you have areas to put. So you go into a bank and here you are borrowing a loan for 5 years. So you should have such assets that you can quickly convert into cash to meet a short-term need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on. We want to know how you manage your cash flows within the enterprise. We want to know, did you operate positive cash flows over the last year?
Cash flow is the amount of money that is coming in and out of a company. The company may have a lot of money, but they have negative cash flows simply because maybe they are not following back on their suppliers, or they don't have clear terms on supplier payments, like payment within 90 days. So managing your cash flows means that you are able to project the money that is coming in and the money that is going out. Otherwise, you get into financial crisis. You can't pay your suppliers, you can't pay salaries, and you have to get into debt. You know that makes it clear. So just because a company has negative cash flows, which is not a good position, doesn't mean they have money. You might have money tied up in stock, for example. So cash flow management involves making sure that all these components come together to enable you to run the company without getting into unnecessary debts.
Okay, thank you, Frida. For deep dives, we are available. And for the question in the chat, yes, we indicated you could find this information in the audited books of accounts. Then, does your company perform any periodic reporting for cash flow management? What are the periods expected to report on your cash flows?
Actually, you must have a cash flow management plan that shows monthly, because there are some expenses that you have to meet monthly, like salaries, like electricity, like this. So at least you must have like a projection at a minimum 3 months, but ideally maybe about 6 months, because that makes you comfortable that you're not able to
Okay.
get it.
Just in addition, I think you need to look at the kind of business that you're in and whether you're making payments monthly, weekly, quarterly, or half yearly. So that should inform you in terms of what are my cash outflows on a weekly basis, monthly, quarterly, or half yearly, and what are my cash inflows. What is it that brings for me money on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, or half yearly? So the comparison of the two, or putting the two together in a tabular format where you can easily see these are my cash outflows in terms of what I pay for and in terms of what brings in money for me, then I see the difference at the bottom, whether there is a surplus or a deficit. Helps to inform you on what decisions you should take. And like my learned friend has said, sometimes we have money being held in the hands of debtors simply because we are not following them up. And the only alternative we are thinking about is going to a bank to borrow money. And yet we are failing to follow our debtors to pay us for the services of the products that we have supplied them. I submit. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. For people having audio issues, please check the connection because we've ascertained that we are clear here. Let's move on quickly to profitability. Apologies, we want to also manage the time, your valuable time. We would want to know whether you recorded any profits during last year. Is this information they can find on their audited books of accounts also? Okay, that's good. If not, cross-check with your financial manager. And if you have any financial management control systems, so do you have a policy, stroke manual? Did you have any financial statements for the past year? Maybe very briefly, which financial statements do we refer to here?
Yeah.
The financial statements typically are balance sheets and a profit and loss statement.
Okay.
That's for company.
Okay, so it's the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement. Do you have any of those? If just one, then no. If both, then yes. Then does your company have audited books of accounts for last year? Did you undertake an audit? Our dummy company? It did. Okay. All right.
What is last year?
2024. Okay.
Should I try and be my accounting government?
Yeah.
So there are-
Financial year.
So we took a standpoint because we know it varies. Some people audit from different periods, so we had to take a standpoint for references. So if you do it after today, no. If you did it, no, it's not counting for the tool. That's what we mean. We are not.
So if someone has audited accounts for 2020 or 2025,
They should be in by June.
At least by this date.
By 5, yeah.
I think the issue of when an audit is done depends on when your financial year begins and ends.
yes.
There are those that follow the government annual year, which is in June 30th. Okay? And so from July up to December, ideally, you should have planned and arranged for audit. But now, if your financial year ends in December, then you have up to 6 months to be able to arrange to have that done. So the payments, but
How do you answer that still company have to?
it depends on what you want. Yes.
Okay, but let me explain for purposes of the tool.
Okay.
If you audited from 2023, some month to 2024, that's yes.
Okay.
If you audited from January 2024 to December 2024, that's okay. I'm not aware if we have half-year audits for 2025.
Depends if you have.
Okay, so that depends. We neglect for now and take 2024 as the benchmark.
So you did this disclosure last year.
Mm,
We
yes.
did last year.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Okay. All right. Do you have any internal control systems in place? Very briefly, what we refer to as internal control systems.
Internal control systems are systems that ensure that activities. But what do internal control systems are systems that are put in place to ensure that the company adheres to its policies and procedures. For instance, segregation of duties, for instance, as stock counts. But normally, for an internal control system to be effective, it must be benchmarked against some kind of guidelines. So you say that every 3 months we do a stock take, or every month we do a stock take. So are you adhering to those policies and procedures?
Okay. Thank you, Frida. There you are, people.
Yeah, absolutely. But just to add on, there should be an industry standard. So if let's say you want to do the oil and gas, there are specifics that you should be able to follow that are within the industry for purposes of the internal control. So you may find that you have to report on revenues or specific costs that relate to that industry within a given period of time. So your controls must be able to follow the industry standard. You don't just set it up for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for more info on the industry standards, you will stay back in the exercise. We have more information, as you can see. We are just so burgeoning with information. We have a question, kind of, from Ruth. We have not yet received the 2024 audited accounts. Please advise. So we assume, is this undertaken, Ruth, or you've just not received it? That's the assumption. They are audited.
I think that is between the company and their external auditor. So they need to run it. Remember the supplier money.
She says they are still working on them.
Oh, yes.
So I think.
Financial year ends in December, and they have up to
Okay.
June to be able to have it finalized. So I think that's okay because they are waiting for it.
Okay.
But the other thing that would inform you is for the previous years have they been doing it.
Okay.
And they're within time for that exercise to be done if they are now waiting for feedback from the auditors. Sure.
Okay. We have a request from Patience that we are going to park. She wants us to expound more on profitability. Let's park that. We have parked it under national content, where we shall deep dive after the main session. So for now, kindly allow us to move to bid management and also explore that in a bit more detail. Waiting for those thumbs up that I get past to the next theme. Don't stop the questions, keep them coming. Remember, we shall go through the questions one by one. And here, we are looking at aspects of bid management. Again, we bother you again with these strategies. Do you have a bid management strategy? We can clarify what we mean by a strategy in this framework. Do we have a bid management strategy? Mata Bakas, could you expound on this a bit and we move on? Okay. Sandra, don't wait. Pass it to scroll up. All right, so what? Yes, please.
That would be process that you put in place to manage the way you apply, respond to tenders, being able to win or lose, and even following up to see if you lost what was the reason why, things like that.
Okay, so that's your bid management strategy. We told you have to outline clear objectives, what you want to achieve, and how you intend to achieve that. So if you have this in place, if you've never heard about it, clearly it's a no. Please click no. So we are also clicking no in our dummy company. Do we have a bid management team, people who are designated to look out for the bids, tenders, apply, and source new opportunities? We do not have. Do the same if you also do not have. Then do you have a bid library? We say this is a collection of documents like company certificate, tax clearance, and the usually asked documents. Would you want to give examples of what belongs to a bid library? What else? Or we can continue in the interest of time, and if they require further clarification.
Well, it would also be having a profile of performance in that industry. When and as of when they may be a supply, when they are likely to put out or call out for bids. So you have a proper profile the industry performance.
Okay.
But maybe they just in the case of oil and gas, there's some documents which you need to have in that library because the work is critical. So your company name, your company certificate, your NSD, the trading license, the preparation permit, NSSF certificate, URA. So there are about 10 documents which you need to have. And if somebody has them, should be able to say yes. If they don't, there's,
Okay, maybe. Yes, please, Sandra.
Yeah, also to add on, they should be updated documents. So the advice is you have probably for every year or every period, so that the TTC is approved and valid. The trading license is valid, the NSF is valid. So that when you get a bid, you're not running around, but you have valid documents that you just attach and submit.
Okay, Ruth, I think our explanation came in handy because you were asking what's a bid library. I hope that information and the 10 documents are clear. We shall deep dive in the extended session if you require more guidance on that. Then we needed to know whether you perform any post-bid evaluations. Do you have any mechanisms to assess once you've applied for bids, why they are successful or why they are not? Do you have any evaluation mechanisms in place? In our case, you can say, yes, we have. We usually have meetings and a team to review why we've not been successful and then strategize to improve the next bid. So please, yes, if that's the truth, and no, as otherwise. I'll keep reminding you to fill out the qualitative input and additional comments. For example, here we are going to ask what challenges do you face during bidding and tendering for oil and gas. Don't forget to fill out that session as accordingly. Let's move on briefly and quickly to the bid management practices, looking at the TikTok. So we ask, in terms of bidding requirements, do you have sufficient resources to apply for bids in oil and gas? You list all applicable. For example, we are looking at the human resource, including technical staff. What other examples could be resources other than the time and so on? Because we have a question on time. So we have resources in terms of human resources, sorry?
The human resources.
Human resource, yeah, that's something you could find so easily, and expertise, technical expertise. Okay, so do let us know if it's still unclear. Do you have any project management skills? Do you have like previous project management experience? Do you have a project manager in your organization? The part of whether you have previous experience in oil and gas is quite lengthy. So if yes, we require some bit of detail on that. Don't attempt to fill it out now, but in your free time, give us sufficient information as to whether you've won any bids and tenders. Okay. So the next question, is your company in position to offer any bid management, any bid securities, all bid bonds? We had a slide on that, but I don't know if you already aware what bid bonds are. Let's just take you to the slide briefly and then have an explanation on what we mean by a bid security and bid bond, that you can answer this question more accurately. Okay, coming right up. This slide has the bid security. Let's enlarge and put into slideshow so that you know what we mean.
Well, when we talk about the security bonds, it's just an assurance or a guarantee that's given to you by your bank based on your asset base and your previous history of dealing with them as you receive for financial support from the institution. So it's issued by your bank to the stakeholder that you're dealing with in this case.
Okay, and then the big bond, we also have something like that.
Performance guarantee.
It's a performance guarantee. Okay, let's come back to that when we are that far. So back to our BD tool. Remember, we are looking at whether you can easily acquire these. Does your bank trust you enough to give you this easily, or is this an area where you still require further support? So click yes or no accordingly. For any challenges you may still be facing, please use the additional comment section to let us know. Okay, let's proceed down. We also ask whether your company usually meets the bid submission format, deadline, documentation. So in general, according to your bidding experience, is this an area that you still struggle with, that I often miss the deadline, I often can't find the right format? If any of these apply, then click yes. In the action planning, we shall try to define where you exactly struggle. But for purposes of today, just click yes, that all know whether you struggle. Okay, allow me to not ignore, but move on. We shall come back to the comment section. Let's move on to contract management. Here we are looking basically at two things: volume and nature of contracts, one, and then how you manage contracts. Remember, we explained in the session before that we want to know how many tenders you've won in oil and gas. So if you've not won any tenders in oil and gas, that means you've not managed a contract in oil and gas. So please click no route. We shall then, during the action planning, ascertain whether you're still struggling with certain aspects. But if you've not implemented, then click no for us to know, because contract management in oil and gas is quite specific, and we want to make sure you understand that. So put no. But for those who have managed a contract before, if you've won one contract and if you've applied for one contract and won it, that's 100%. Please do proceed to put yes. If you've applied for two and won only one, that's 50%. Click yes. If you've applied for 10 and only won one, that is 10%. Click no. If this question is still unclear, we are coming back to it. But for those to whom it's clear, please click accordingly. Then the question of tier 1 or tier 2 comes back again. Remember, we had a lengthy discussion back then, whether you were tier 1 contractor and tier 2. Could we rightly assume that it's no longer an issue? But just as a reminder, tier 1s are contracted directly by the international oil companies, which we named as Total Energies, CNOOC, ECOP, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, UNOC, Uganda National Oil Company, and the companies in exploration, Oranto and Ama Energy. If this is still unclear, allow us to deep dive with you later and move on to the question of whether if you've won a contract, it's above 500,000 US dollars. We explained this benchmark, so kindly let us know whether you're above the benchmark or below. In our dummy company, we have a few no's and few yes. Just randomly click a few no's that we can have an example at the end that calls for action. Okay. Keep the questions coming though as we proceed. Does your company have any performance management indicators? Here we shall pause to give you a few examples of what performance management indicators could be under contract management. We are going to let the resource persons come in. And also regarding the performance guarantee, we shall put up a slide as we explain the performance management indicators, and also whether you engage any stakeholders and use any tools for resource management. while managing contracts. The last two are whether you have any dispute resolution mechanisms and reporting structures in place. So let's deep dive into what performance management indicators could be for contract management, as Sandra, you bring up the slides on performance guarantees to explain a bit more. Okay, thank you.
Performance management indicators may include timeliness of completing contracts. It could also include risks that were identified during the performance of the contract that were mitigated on time. Things like that, you need to have some kind of matrix that shows indicators. Of course, they'll vary depending on the type of contract. But those could be some of those. Even costs, how you control costs. This was what you budgeted, this is what you spent actually in actual terms. So those would be some of the performance indicators for contract management.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Frida. And for the performance guarantee, we want to also let you know what we mean briefly before you can click yes or no. The performance guarantee. Okay. What is the performance guarantee? We already have some information here that it's an instrument used by the bank or the insurance company to assure the project owner, in this case, the contractors who are contracting you for the assignment, that you will fulfill their contractual obligations as agreed. So usually you approach your bank when you're bidding to obtain a performance guarantee. Is it some sort of letter or undertaking? Okay, that provides that assurance to the contractor. We know SMEs struggle in this area, and if you're also struggling, then the IEC course is the right course for you. Could we go back to the BD tool? Okay. Then that is contract management. If you're still unable to fill out certain spaces, please leave them blank. We are coming back. We are so excited to get to the end of the tool and let those that have had no major issues exit, as we remain with those that require further hand-holding. Okay, moving on from contract management, we look at how you've positioned your market. These are quite simple things. Do you have a business plan? We are assuming that you know what a business plan is. If not, then you probably are no. Do you have a marketing plan? Do you have a niche market or expertise? We're also going to bring up niche and explain. And do you have a customer relationship management strategy? So our dummy company will have no's throughout. And as we explain what a niche is, we can either put up the slide or have an explanation from Matt Abacus. What is a niche? Please do fill out accordingly.
The niche is the kind of market that you are targeting. I'm just thinking about an example. Your niche would be maybe you are looking at people who are living in apartments, and that is where you want to target your efforts at. So if you have like a marketing plan, it will highlight how you're going to reach this packet to this particular niche. The niche would be people who are working in the corporate world, the kind of messages you want, the budget that you have. So all those come together when you are developing a marketing plan to reach that particular niche that you want. So the messages have to be tailored to meet that particular niche.
Yeah, actually, you will put it. The addition would be under oil and gas. You are having both the forward and the backward linkages. So you're having people in exploration, and then you have those who are doing processing. So if you were to choose going by the forward linkage, your message or your supply will differ from a person who is doing the backward, who is supplying the backward linkage. So you cannot, let's say, supply the oil rig to a backward lineage, for instance, because already gallons into commercialization. So maybe you may think of housing, supplying the housing part of it, maybe supplying transportation and that kind of thing. So you need to define who you'd like to supply in the oil and gas sector, depending,
On your niche.
you know.
Okay, so we have a kind request for the link to be shared in the chat. We are going to do that. Kindly stay with us. Okay, then the rest are simple. Do you have any social media marketing channels? Social media would mean LinkedIn, YouTube, WhatsApp, YouTube, name it. Even if you're on Chanchuin. So please do let us know. Okay, do you have a website? Let us know. Also type your website in the sheet. And if you have an export license, this is acquired from the Uganda, although it was merged, but at least from the Uganda Export Promotion Board. If you have something like that, click yes. Allow us to move to diversification. Remember, we dived deeper last time and explained diversification. If you're still having challenges, let us know in the chat. But otherwise, if you think you're diversifying, click yes. And let us know how you're diversifying for your company services. Do you access any regional markets? Are you selling to any markets outside Uganda, be it East Africa and international? Click yes, and also tell us which companies. And also, if you have any active joint ventures, we mean, have you concluded any joint venture partnerships, or have you signed any MOUs? Are you having any partners at the moment? Do let us know, and we shall assess. We can click no for our company on as required. Okay, allow me to check for a thumbs up. We go to risk management. If no thumbs up, put a question in the chat so that we can come back to it. We kind of want to manage time who have no issues at all, be able to exit in a timely manner. Risk management plan and tools. Do you have anything in place that helps you manage and anticipate risks? Is it documented? Yes or no? Do you have a record of all the risks that are ascertained to your company? That's a risk register, yes or no? Do you have someone managing your risk as an advisor or manager? Yes or no? And do you have any insurance policies for your company? Like anything to safeguard you against any form of liability? So that's the risk management space. Do let us know if you require any clarification in the chat. As we move to human resource management, it's one of the bottom aspects and what's left. Thank you for the thumbs up. We are asking, do you have an employee handbook or code of conduct? Do you have any means or mechanism for keeping staff records? Do you have an HR personnel? Doesn't have to be a manager, but any personnel managing, any person managing HR issues? Then do you have a recruitment and staffing policy? And is there a mechanism whereby employees can log in complaints, maybe to management or HR? Taking stock to see if that's clear. Do use the chat for additional clarification, and a thumbs up if you're still having energy to click. And yeah, thank you. We move on to training and development. What is a staff competence matrix or framework? Would you want to shed more light on what we mean here by a staff competence matrix or framework?
Yes, a staff competence matrix is a matrix that shows the various roles, the qualifications required, and the qualifications that you have available. Such a matrix supports the organization, one, maybe not necessarily to recruit, but to know where to strengthen already existing personnel to improve on their skills or acquire the skills that are required. It helps in our human resource planning.
Okay, thank you. Very elaborative. And if you've developed that matrix, are you having any staff training plans? It's not mutually exclusive, but if you have any staff training plans, then do indicate yes. The rest are rather easy. Do you perform any performance evaluation for your staff? Do you have any compensation benefits, any allowances other than the salary? Okay. And then do you have any company medical schemes? Does your company have any staff medical schemes in place? And whether you offer any annual performance bonuses or rewards? Okay. There is a challenge I must address quickly. Hello, the challenge is that the matrix doesn't show fully the questions. Yes, this is an oversight, but since we know that you've already been filling out the tool, we can't share an updated version. That would be double work for you. We can either share an updated tool or you let us know in the chat which particular question. If you've already gone far to complete, just let us know which particular question that is. But for your reference, we can also share a fully marginalized tool so that you can refer to the one we've shared as you complete the sections. I think that's what we shall do. We'll share an updated tool showing all the margins so that you can refer at least and check the question you want to check. That was an oversight. We should have enlarged the rows before sharing. Okay, we are getting there, people. We are going to ESG, that is environmental, social, and governance. How are these practices structured? We had a thorough explanation in the session earlier. Now we want to know, do you have any of these policies in place? If you have any that you customized for environment or social or governance, examples are right there in the boxes. And do skip if it's unclear, or do use the chat for additional questions. Okay, last but not least, we go to the certifications. Oh, there are additional questions here on whether you train and have a sustainability committee. If you perform any reporting, we had additional questions there. But do allow us to proceed to certifications. As mentioned, we are primarily investigating the quality management system 9001, the 14001, the environmental management system, the 45001, the occupational health and safety. Do you have any of these? Even if it's just one, please click yes. If you have none at all, please do click no. Any other sector-specific certifications? Halal, maybe food management system, risk management, cyber security. Do let us know if you have any additional certifications and click yes where applicable. In our case, we have none. As we mentioned last time, it's not possible and it's quite unexpected that we could have covered all the aspects that your enterprise is facing. That's why we left room in the others. This is not scored in the tool. It's just room for us to collect additional feedback, additional comments on the areas that we may not have scored, but you deem rather very important. So use this space to let us know. Offhand, we do not know which areas. I cannot think of what you could have forgotten, but surely, you are the SME owners, you are the business people. You know the areas where you're struggling, you know the key aspects that are hindering your participation in oil and gas. And that's what we want to know more about. With that, people, we come to the end of the tool. We would be lucky and fortunate if you were able to complete all the sections already as an enterprise. And we would thank you for that. And we are going to briefly address the questions in the chat. And let those of you who have no additional queries to leave the meeting, and we give you the 3 working days. Immediately after this session, we are going to share the tool with the enlarged colleagues such that you have a point of reference to complete the tool very efficiently. Let's just show you a snapshot of what our assessment summary looks like. You should have the same scorings at the end. Do look at your tool to see if, kindly enlarge. Wow. We had quite a good performance in our dummy company. We are, however, curious. Could you use the chart to let us know what your average score is for now? I know it's preliminary and immature. Just use the chart to let us know what your score is. Okay. Great work. We have people at 66. As you're sharing your scores, your preliminary scores, we have questions on whether this recording shall be shared. Yes, we are going to share this recording with you. All of you that register on the link will receive this recording. So remember to register. The QR code is coming up again. And also the link will be put in the chat again. Okay.
This is important. That it's important to mention that having a score below 50% doesn't mean, it only means that it will only depends on the kind of business development support you will need. Because otherwise, you might find us trying to push our score. We are that, but we are saying if I say that, it may put me at a disadvantage. So it's okay, it's where you are and it's where additional support will come.
Thank you, Frida. We also emphasized that in the first session. We hope that you've been accurate and honest. That's the only way we can give you feedback. Please keep those numbers coming in. They are very motivating, because only when you have low scores do we have a job. If we all put 100, we are out of jobs. So please indicate honestly. And at this point, I know there are questions in the chat we haven't covered, but I can also assume there are people who don't have any additional needs. So let's go briefly through to let you go. Okay. Now, one thing was expound further on profitability. We are going to do that. What type of books of accounts do we need to avail? This question comes from John Baguma. What type of books of accounts do we need to avail if we are less than 1 year in operation, where our works and accounts have been mainly by our partners outside the country? Okay. John, in this case, just put no. We do not have audited books of accounts for clarity. Okay. Bid library, we clarified. We have a kind of a note from Patience. Please note that legal documents such as the tax clearance certificate must bear the name of the entity you're bidding to.
Yeah, that's
Therefore, they can only be processed once the bidding has commenced. Okay, thank you.
New tax clearance. This
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
It's not that it's what is requiring to is not a transactional.
This is, yeah.
Transactional certificate. Okay. So need some insight on resource expectations for oil and gas. Carol, we would want you to rephrase that and expound more on that before we are able to answer that. The matrix, we are going to share an updated version, and then the tool. Kindly let us know how this tool should be shared back after completing. We are saving the best for last. We didn't want you dropping out before. So we are going to give you a link. It's coming right up. Please don't leave without the link. Sandra, I think we could share that slide with the link. And we're also going to share this presentation with additional definitions. You'll see a link for you to upload the tool. Okay.
Yeah, it should be that we did population with them. It's an info, every border, SMEs, or whether it's
Okay, the link where you're registering the tool, all of you do not have access to view the data there. Okay. We have a link we've shared. Allow me to briefly cross-check because for data protection, we cannot have everyone access their own tool. The link we had now would allow you to view other results. So we are going to come up with a Google Forms where you just upload your tool. Please look out for that. Let's clarify that. We had thought that had been solved in the meantime. So thank you for sharing your scores. They are very modest and we want to work with you. Some of you are scoring quite fairly. But as we told you last time, we are not letting you go. Even if you score 99%, there is no escape from the IEC. We still have a lot of things to do with you. So for those that have completed, how do we share the BD tool? Let's refine that. We are refining the link because we realized we need to protect data and you don't have to see the results of another entity. Those who may need to leave the chat, we are going to share the link with the updated tool. So don't fret. And yes, in the extended version, we are going to have the cells expanded. From David, what happens when you're below 25? Nothing. You just score red. But our capacity building intervention then would speak to those areas, which may be almost every area, and would support you to address all these issues where you're outstanding. For clarifications, can we call or just email? Please feel free to email because then we would reply to you. You may call when I'm in another session, when I'm unable to pick the call, and then you're frustrated. But if you do write an email or use this chat, remember we told you this meeting chat remains open for a while. You can still reply via the meeting chat. Do we also fill out the action plan? Okay. Like discussed, the action plan will form the basis for our discussion next week when you come in at the IEC in person. For your planning purposes, this cohort will meet on 6th May for the action planning exercise. That's the week after next. We want you to look out for the email inviting you to the action planning. This will also be our opportunity to meet you in person. We shall have the BD facilitators in-house, interact with you, go through the action planning exercise with you. Remember, the action planning exercise is based on the results of your BD assessment. So we have a summary of that will form the action point. So don't fill out the action plan yet. We are the medics. We have the medicine. Wait a bit. Okay. For the QR code where you have to submit something, that's being rectified right now. Thank you for those scores coming in. Some people are saying that, well, they scored on average 19, but they also have areas where they are excelling. So that will also be looked at. So that's good. And the bespoke training program will come in handy for you. So are we going to use the updated tool? For the people that had already moved further ahead, don't redo this again. We shall just give you a tool that you can refer to see what that hidden content is, but that you can answer question. Yes, another question is on the M&E baseline. We went through that also. If you still have questions on the M&E baseline, remember it was just how you use the IEC website. Have you attended a training before? Kindly complete that also in the sheet. What do you do with the M&E sheet? As explained, you can bring it up again, but we had explained last time that you can do what? You can fill that out already. Okay. There is a question. TCC is addressed to IEC, if different company. People. Remember we said, if you don't have any document, don't attempt to acquire it within this period. Just click no. So don't invest any time or resources in trying to get any certification, any manuals, any policies. It's not worthwhile and it's not the purpose of the tool. We just want to know. And remember, we are here to help you obtain all these aspects. So wait on us. We are ready to walk the journey with you. And if you don't have a TCC, please just put no, because we shall, in the action plan, see if this is something that is required. We don't want you to get every document, even when it's not required. Okay. The issue of the link where to submit is almost being solved, but at least within 15 minutes of this call ending, you should receive the updated BD tool for you to look at the questions in length, and also the link where to submit. When you submit, you'll have the provision to upload. You'll go through questions like what's the name of your company that is submitting the tool, and then you click upload. When you click upload, confirm that you've received the confirmation that's submitted before you can go ahead. Okay. With that, someone requested that we don't forget profitability. I'll request the team from Mata Bacchus to expound more on profitability. In our tool, we had issues of gross turnover, liquidity, on profitability. Please take over, the experts. Yes.
Standard of be your total revenue for given period. So if you're looking at 12 months, your gross turnover fee, your sales for that period, your gross profit, assuming it's a profit, would actually be a gross profit, is simply your gross turnover, and you remove your direct costs, or sometimes it will return cost of use. So that is what you spend directly to make that revenue. So, for example, if I'm selling computers, a laptop's at 2 million, but it costs me 1 million to buy that laptop, that's my direct cost for that sale. Your rent, for example, is not a direct cost, so it does not deduct it when you determine your gross profit. So then, I don't think is there a requirement for net profit.
No, the person was wondering how to determine if they are profitable. What markers are there?
If there's any system for them to report their revenue and their expenses, it's simple. They have an automated system. It can even be an Excel sheet. If they're reporting everything, you should be able to show. If they have no method of reporting that, it's simply the rudimentary case. If I am selling so much, and these are my costs. That's the BI type that I have. Very rudimentary one. Yes.
Okay.
But it will be hard to, sometimes it can be very misleading to go that way, because you may think you're making money when you're actually making the process. So there should be some form of reporting. I am selling this much, I am spending this much. There should be some level of reporting that's a gives it accurately and for them. Otherwise, it's really guesswork. So if in a given period, say of 6 months, I have sold 300 million, and my expenses paid at 200 million, the 100 million is roughly this figure.
Okay. All right. And that's why that bespoke training program is here to help you further improve on your profitability and also assess whether you're moving forward or you're stagnant. Now, we have thumbs up and some kind of, this says, just need to know where we stopped. Okay, Tadeo says, this bespoke training program is moving on so wonderfully with many thanks. Thank you very much, Tadeo. Profitability, we've highlighted. And then with a link and updated BD assessment tool, be shared through our email or via the chat. Please, through the email, I'm going to share with email. We also have a presentation on those additional details that you may need. Okay. There's a question from Paul on the industry benchmark for profitability. I wasn't able to get one. Okay, Paul, you're obviously and clearly using the old tool. you're using the old tool poll. Kindly use the updated tool because this question was omitted in the end. In the one we shared today, yesterday, and the one we're going to share, this question was omitted. Okay, people were asking about the industry benchmark. You're using the old tool. Remember, we had a session with you and we made some adjustments after the session with you. Okay. QR code, please. People are asking for the QR code again. Let's put up the slide with the QR code. And then, what do we need to arrange and come with for the action planning meeting? Let's ponder over it, but already we need your completely filled tool. That is the basis. Then we need you to come with commitment, because we're also going to commit to undertaking all programs and services of the IEC. Other than that, a huge appetite and a good mood. We await you at the IEC. Your cohort is to re-emphasize, but we're also going to share details and a link for that meeting already. Sorry?
It's physical.
It's physical. Oh, apologies. Now I'm physical. Okay. Kindly note, this is a physical session. We shall not have opportunity to attend online. There is an energy convention. This is something from Sean. There is an energy convention starting tomorrow and ending Wednesday, which coincides with the 3-day deadline. I'm waiting for the new tool. Let's give you the tool immediately. And if for any reason the 3 days are not enough, please let us know. Please share the updated tool. Yes, group. We are the same people in the meeting going to share the tool. So kindly give us a few more minutes to end the call and enlarge the columns and send you. Okay, so it's good to hear you're attending the energy convention. Do you want to let us know where? We also want to know and be kept in the ecosystem. But the tool coming right up, if you're using the tool that was not piloted, kindly refer to the tool we are sharing now. So thank you very much. Looks like we are run out of questions in the chat, but we've not run out of enthusiasm to support you. We remain committed here to addressing each and every needs you may have. From our end, we remain the team from the IEC, myself, Christine, Sandra, my colleague, and Danielle, and also the team from Matabakas was here, gladly responding to your questions. There will be the same tool, it will be the same team we shall meet when we come in for the action planning exercise. Do endeavor to submit within the 3 days because we require enough time to review your submissions. So it's a wrap from us, the IEC and Matabakas. Please do attend in large numbers next in May. We wish you a lovely day and a nice rest of the week. And bye-bye. The meeting chat will remain open for 5 more minutes and then we close it if there is something you could have forgotten. Right, for this cohort, there is no further engagement.